This is Off the 11th Hour, and I'm your host, Nathanael Stone, but we all know who the Lord of Hosts is. Say it with me in any dialect you so choose. 𝐤𝐄𝐄, Sabbath. Kodesh brothers and sisters, fellow members in the body of Messiah, and those in the world, thank you for giving me your attention in a world full of distractions. We are back. It has been a couple months here. It's been the semester break. We have Nathan with us. You want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back after a long time. It's good to be here. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Nate.
Yeah. So, you know, we go through a lot of material here in the show. Now with the new semester, we are going to do a little bit of a different format. I had a good time to kind of meditate on things. We have a little bit more material that we're going to go through, Nathan, as we're doing basically like a discipleship program. As I'm sharing with you, we're different. I guess you could say a deprogramming from bad doctrine. We are programming directly from the Word. We are in an educational program, a Torah Tuesdays that we upload it here, and I am trying to share a lot of the things that I've learned in the 10 years that I've done in this cycle. I'm in my I count my cycles because I basically started right around the just before Passover, maybe like 3 months or so before Passover, and then so I studied for about 3 months and had my first Passover, and then made a full cycle around. And this is my 10th. I'm entering into my 10th cycle.
Wow.
Here in this new understanding. Obviously I've been a believer, always been a believer.
Right.
Maybe not a doer, but definitely definitely was a believer that there always wasn't an Elohim, that there was a creator. But in this new walk that I've been in, or this upgraded walk, or this you could say this walk with understanding, it's been about I'm entering into my 10th cycle. So I'm trying to share things with Nathan and with you, the viewers, of just the things that I've learned. And last semester, it's kind of difficult when the scope is so big. You just kind of don't know where to start. So you just got to jump in somewhere.
Yeah.
So we just jumped in, and we laid some foundational aspects, and we got some more things to go over here. After maybe a couple more episodes, Nathan, we're gonna get into some book studies.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. I don't know what book we're gonna do. Maybe one of Paul's books, I think.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
If there's any book like between now and the next couple of weeks,
right.
Yeah, let's pick from Paul. Paul is, Apostle Paul, Shaul. He is a word engineer. And a lot of people in this walk, I shouldn't say a lot, some people in this walk, after they've learned certain things, they've rejected Apostle Paul because they're like, I think that this guy is teaching against the Bible. I don't agree with that, but I can understand why people do.
Right.
Because let's just get right into it. And then we're going to kind of get into some more topic stuff that I want to share. As this is, I think we've covered this before, but it's good to go over some information here. This is a letter in Peter, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 through 17. Bear in mind the patience of our Lord. I'm going to switch to ISR here, TS 2009 here real quick. So reckon the patience of our Master, our Lord, our Adonai, as salvation, as deliverance, as also our beloved brother Shaul, that's Paul, wrote to you according to the wisdom given him. So he's saying that Shaul was given wisdom. But then he says this, it's a warning, as also in all, not some, but all his letters, speaking in them concerning these matters, in which some are hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the other scriptures. You then, beloved ones, being forewarned, watch, lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the delusion of the lawless. In King James, it says here, the error of the wicked. This word here for wicked, G 113 or 113, athismos, and it is lawless, as you see here. That is, by implication, criminal, a wicked. Whoop, I just lost it. Criminal or wicked. There we go. That. Sorry, I pressed the button and the whole thing went away. Okay. Here we go.
There we go.
Criminal or wicked, as it has here. It's in the sense of enacting. So it is lawless. It's, let's see where else. One who breaks through the restraint of law and gratifies his lusts. So again, this word lawless is not talking about anything other than biblical law. And so he's saying to be careful that Paul's words don't make you fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with lusts or like being carried away with lawlessness or seeking after like the lusts of your heart. And he's saying that this is a delusion. But the point of the matter here is that Apostle Shaul is maybe a more Hebraic, closer. Apostle Shaul, Paul, is his letters are hard to understand. And he's saying that untaught people and unstable people, that they twist his words into destruction as they also do other scriptures. So it's not just his words that they twist into lawlessness, but it's all the scriptures, but his in particular. And he's telling you, don't get carried away with delusion of your lusts, like you're seeking after the lusts. So the different. So like for instance, if someone wants to think that it's okay to, I'm trying to think of something in my head that it's okay to have idolatry. Let's just say that, right? And then someone is like, well, no, idolatry is okay. All the other idolatry is bad, but this idolatry is okay. People would like justify their desires from their heart, and they use scriptures to justify it, especially Apostle Paul's scriptures. So we're going to that's actually a really good segue. Hallelujah. We're going to pick on the one for the Sabbath. And so what I notice is a lot of people use Apostle Paul's writings to say that we don't have to do the Sabbath anymore, the Shabbat. We don't have to do this day anymore, and they will try to twist Apostle Paul's writings, whether it's I see a lot from Romans or Galatians. They will twist his writings to essentially say that they don't have to keep the fourth commandment anymore. And this would be a delusion of the lawless is what that is. And it's untaught and it's unstable to twist that, right? The 10 commandments, we have 10 fingers in hand, or 10 fingers on our hands. Not 10 hands. That's a problem. And so all the commandments have stayed the same, right? No false God worship has stayed, that hasn't changed. No idolatry, that hasn't changed. Don't take his name in vain, that hasn't changed. To remember the Sabbath, keep it set apart, keep it holy, that hasn't changed. Honor your mother and father, that hasn't changed. No murder, no adultery, no stealing, no bearing false witness, no coveting your neighbor's things, that hasn't changed. So like the Sabbath hasn't changed. But what we see is a lot of people, they try to use Apostle Paul's writings and other scriptures to try to say that the Sabbath has somehow changed when it hasn't. Right. So we're going to get into that. So there was a comment on a video that we posted regarding the Sabbath. I forget which one, on Torah Tuesday. I don't know if it was the last one or the one before that, but someone had posted a comment. I didn't even go back and look. I forgot what he basically said something about
If you're watching, hi.
Yeah, right. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
If you said it, he basically said that when I talked to you about the Sabbath, and I said that it's a day of worship, he said that I think he said something about it's not a day of worship, but it's a day that we don't work, or he emphasized more that it's a day that we don't work. And not just, I'm sorry, I didn't go back and look again, but I did tell him that, I thank you for pointing that out. Maybe I didn't go over it with you clear enough, or maybe he heard me incorrectly, or only heard a part of it, or whatever it is. I feel that from that comment, I'm going to go over the Sabbath again with you, the Sabbath regulation in the scriptures. And in fact, there's a good friend of mine, a spiritual brother of mine, and he said that he had I forget, it was a dream or a vision that he had. I think it was a dream, and Elohim, the creator God, right? Elohim was showing him essentially like the three. I forget what he called it, he saw it as three rings on a finger, and it's like the three major flaws in the majority of modern day Christianity today.
Yeah.
And on that he saw a Christmas, Easter, and Sabbath is what he saw. And you and I, when the winter break happened, and we haven't yet gone over the holy days, the holidays, not just the American holidays, but more importantly, we haven't gone over the scripture holidays.
Right.
And actually, that's probably going to be next week. Is what we're going to go over.
Alrighty.
They call it the Moedim.
The Moedim.
Yeah, Moed. It's like appointment time.
Okay.
If your boss says, "I want you here next Monday," I don't know what next Monday is. I'm just going to make up a day. I want you here on March 3rd on whatever day at 8 a.m. And so if you're not there, you're going to get in trouble with your boss, or if it's a repeated pattern, especially after you've been given warnings. If you don't know, I didn't even see the memo. He might cut you some leeway, but if it's like a repeated pattern and you keep missing work, hey, you're supposed to be in work, Monday through Friday, and you got to be here at 9 a.m. And if you're not there Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. and you consistently don't show up for work, you're going to get fired. That's just what happens. They're not, they're just not going to keep you on. So, I guess you could say there could be something similar with that, with our spiritual walk, is that, especially those who are more educated, or maybe those who have the ability to be educated, but are choosing not to educate themselves on his matters, and they're educating themselves on the entertainment of the world.
Yeah.
They don't have an excuse, with the things that we have at our fingertip. Either way, if we continue to miss work, we would get fired. I guess you could say if you continue to miss the appointed times, then maybe the Ruach pulls from you until you start showing up for work, so to speak. And until you start showing up on the days you're supposed to be showing up, or at least doing, it's a case by case basis. And I'm not saying that someone that's not following the holy days are the Ruach is pulled from them, but the more we know, the stricter the more we know, the stricter the discipline can be. So we're going to get into the holidays, but the Sabbath is actually a segue into the holidays, because the Sabbath is actually the first Moedim, or the first Moed, I should say.
Right.
Moed means appointed time. In our English language today, we would use the word Moed for like holiday, if you will. It's a holy day.
Right.
Every Moed is a holiday, a special day. It's a holy day. And some of the Moedim are considered Sabbath. And some of the Moedim are you're allowed to work, but just for like preparing food. There's different regulations with every one, but it's the holidays that the Father created for us to keep.
Yeah.
And then the Sabbath is the weekly one. So we're going to go into the yearly annual holidays, the holy days, the Moedim, in a future episode. But first, I want to go over the Sabbath. But before we get into that, let's just kind of like take a glance back at essentially last semester. You know, those of you who are maybe first viewing or maybe didn't catch it. Nathan and I, we're in school.
Yeah.
And we're in the university, and we meet here, and then we record, we upload on Tuesday. Yeah. So last semester, Nathan, like, what to you? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah. I remember from what we kind of talked about last time when we were doing the podcast. We do have to follow the Sabbath. The Sabbath is one of the important holidays that the Lord has appointed for us to follow. And it's something that I believe it's done in the 7th day of the week. And that was something that, you had to, it was a time of worship, but not only that, it was also a time where you do not work, whatsoever. And that I remember that was the most kind of, important topics that modern day Christianity really don't follow, what the Bible essentially tells us. And that was something that I myself didn't know, because I was, like I said, taught my entire life that the Sabbath wasn't really important. It's only, that's only like an Old Testament thing. We don't have to really do that. That's only something that, the Jewish people do. And it really made me think, wait a minute, this is a commandment. This is a part of God's commandments that we have to follow. And I think a lot of people, especially modern Christianity, tend to also kind of forget that. But yeah, we kind of, as like that comment said, we thought we kind of already touched upon that, where we didn't work, but we didn't have to work during the Sabbath. But it's also not just about not working, but it's also about, worshiping. It's a time of worship. Yeah.
Is there, so outside of the Sabbath, is there any other thing that really reached out to you?
Yeah. Also, like the fact that we also kind of talked about, was it felt? No, it was the holidays themselves.
Oh yeah. We kind of talked about that off camera, really. Yeah. About it, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Also, let's see. From what I remember, I'm trying to remember. We also had a conversation.
I'll try to trigger your memory, because there's one point that I really want to draw out. I know you know. What about like how we as scripture believers, from Genesis through Malachi and Matthew through Revelation, from cover to cover, Old and New Testament, what about how we should be identifying?
Oh, yes. We should be identified as God's people or Jews. We're
that
Jewish.
Word is
no, it's a worldly term, but we're God's. We're God's.
No. What is it? Yeah. What is? It was a name given to one of the patriarchs, and his name was changed, and it's a symbol of what we, the believers of Elohim, is to be called. It's the kingdom. The name of the kingdom.
It was the name of the kingdom.
And not to be confused with a certain country. I'll give you a hint.
Right. Right. Jerusalem.
Well, that's the country, that is the city that comes down, but what is the name of the kingdom? It's there. I know it's there. You're dancing all around it.
Yeah, it's so it wasn't Jewish. It wasn't Jews. We're Jews. We're
but Jewish people, they today they are part of what country?
Israel.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Israel. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'll kind of trigger your memory on some points and maybe kind of go over some. We've gone over this. Not to be confused with the country.
We're Israelites. We're Israelites.
There it is. That's
Israelites.
it. That's it. And
yes.
not to be confused with the country over there. The country over there is a political ideology.
Yeah.
And they did not return with Messiah.
Yeah.
And even though they call themselves Israel, which is either the 10-tribe kingdom or the 12-tribe kingdom through context, they themselves are only claiming to be of the 2-tribe kingdom or of one tribe, Judah, which is where we get the word Jew, Judah. That's where you get that word from. Or Yehuda is the dialect in Hebrew. Yahudi is the person. Yahudim are, we would say, Jews. Yahudim.
Yahudim.
According to Romans chapter 2 at the very end there, I think it's somewhere in the 20s, 28 or something, 28 through 31, or it's in that range there. A Jew is not so. Let's see. We'll just put it here. Let's just kind of go there. Romans 2 here. So in Romans 2 here, it says at the very end, verse 29, that was close. Yeah, 28. Yeah.
28.
For he is not a Yehudi who is so outwardly, neither is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh, but a Yehudi. This is where the word Jew, where you get the word Jew. I don't necessarily like that. The word Jew. I like the word Yehudi better because it's actually, it's okay.
It's from scripture.
Yeah. Well, it is there in scripture in English, but still.
The original, I guess, language.
I feel that there is a difference between a Yehudi and a Jew, but that's a technical point I don't want to get on right now. But a Yehudi is he who is so inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in spirit, not literally, whose praise is not from men, but from Elohim. So yeah, I identify as a Yehudi. And to kind of keep it simple to like secular people, I basically let them know, like, I am a messianic, if I were to put a word on it, I would say that I am an unorthodox, messianic, Torah observant Yehudi. And Yehudi is the word commonly translated as Jew, even though I don't necessarily, I like to differentiate from the word Jew. I do identify as a Yehudi. And I am an unorthodox, or maybe they're the unorthodox ones. But as they would classify today, I'm unorthodox, messianic, means that I do believe that the Messiah has come in the flesh. He is the only begotten son of Elohim, the only begotten son of God. And he is set to return here soon for his second coming. And that, but I also identify as, and I'm Torah observant, which means that I keep the instructions in the Bible. Essentially, it's a fancy word for I keep biblical instruction. And I believe that the whole Bible and all of the laws and all of the commandments and all of the regulations and the statutes in the Bible are to be upheld. There are there's a little bit of stuff with some animal sacrifice stuff and some temple worship stuff. And there's some areas that can get into some complicated matters, but for the most part, aside from that, we are to keep the instructions, in that we are to keep sacrifices. And right now, this is a sacrifice coming out of my mouth, according to Hosea chapter 14:2 and Hebrews chapter 13, 15 and 16. They are, but 15 specifically, the fruit of our lips, the bullock of our lips, it is to be unblemished. It's a sacrifice that's coming out of our mouth. We're judged by every word, every idle word come from our mouth for a reason. It is a sacrifice. Our prayers as incense and all of that. So I identify as a Yehudi, but as far as the kingdom goes, remember let's see if you remember this. What is the last thing the apostles asked Messiah before he went into heaven? Do you remember?
Are you?
If you don't get it, you don't have to get it word for word, but can you get at least the essentially the thought of what it was?
Are Oh, was it? Sorry, was it? Are you with me? Go and make. No, yeah, come to.
Right here. It's on the. You can see it.
Sorry,
Verse 6.
Verse 6. It says, "They come, Master, would you at this time restore the reign of?" Oh yeah, restore Israel. Yeah.
Restore, or
Yeah.
in King James it'll say something like, restore again the kingdom, to Israel. Okay.
To Israel.
So that's the key thing that I wanna take out here is that last semester we basically covered a lot of foundational things. We covered Messiah in Matthew chapter 5 verses 17 through 19. Remember, he said, "Do not think that I've come to do away with the law and the prophets. I come not to do away, but to fulfill." Mm-hmm. And we looked at that word fulfill. Plauru is the same word in Romans 15:19 that says fully preach. And then remember, we looked at the context, and the context was in the following verse, Matthew 5:18 and 19, he says that not one jot or a tittle, or basically like not even a small word, not even like a piece of a letter, is to remove from the law. And then he said that if until heaven and earth are done away with. So basically, he's saying that if heaven and earth are still here, then that law, even the tiniest little piece, still remains. And then most importantly, in the next verse 19, he says that those who break the least of these commands are considered least in the kingdom of Elohim, but those who teach and do are considered great. So he's saying that don't think I come to do away with the law or the prophets. I come not to do away with, but to fulfill. And people try to say, "Oh, well, it's fulfilled, so we don't have to do the law because the law has been fulfilled."
Yeah.
Well, if it's been fulfilled, why in the following two verses does he say that not even a piece of it is done away with, and those who teach and do are considered great, and those who break the least of the commands? A least of a command is not murder. Right? So if someone's teaching that it's okay to do murder, or if it's okay to do adultery, right? In adultery, when it, what's when no murder, no adultery, that's the 8th commandment. And so adultery is the word na'af, and that can also mean like wedlock. And so don't like no adultery. Another way of saying that is don't break wedlock. And so wedlock, according to scripture, is between a man and a woman. And so he's saying that don't break anything outside of a man and a woman and married for life. So it covers any kind of deviation of sexual deviation. And so anyone that is teaching anything other than wedlock between a man and a woman, anyone that teaches it's okay to break it, is breaking the 8th commandment. That's a greater commandment. Of the 10, I would say all 10 are considered great commandments. So someone tries to tell you it's okay to steal. Nope. Right. If someone tries to tell you it's okay to worship another god, it's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah.
Someone tries to tell you you don't have to honor your mother and father. Right. Well, that's wrong. I think that's actually Mark 7 talks about that.
Right.
Or Mark 9. I think it's Mark 7.
Yeah.
That he basically says like the Pharisees are like, well, long story short, they devised a system and they told people, hey, you have to honor your mother and father, but if you give us money, you don't have to give them money, and we'll give you a discount on that. It's Corbin, but that's a whole separate point.
Yeah.
Anyone that is trying to teach to break the commandments, especially the greater commandments, I would say don't get into the kingdom, because if those who break the least commands are considered least, what about those who are teaching to break, or who are breaking the greater commandments? If those who break the least commandments are considered least, then those who break the greater commandments, I would say don't get in. And that's for Elohim to judge, not us.
Yeah.
And so we're all coming out of Babylon, the great confusion, the great spiritual confusion. We're all coming out of her. But the key thing to take away is that we are to identify as Israelites, and I identify as a Yehudi. The word Yehudi, Yehudim, it comes from the man Yehuda, and Yehuda means I praise Yahuwah, or I give thanks to Yahuwah, or I exalt or show the shining of Yahuwah. Yeah. That's the word hallelujah. The word for hallelujah. And then there's another word that's awadaya. A lot of times you'll see that in the commandments, hallelujah. Awadaya. Yeah, and it's kind of like yadaya, and it means to basically to thank and praise.
Praise, yeah.
And praise is connected with the word Yehuda. And Yehuda is essentially connected to those who praise Yahuwah. And so I identify as one who praises Yahuwah. I identify as one who hallelujah and awadaya. So I do identify as a Yehudi, and I also identify as an Israelite. Not to be confused with the country over there.
The country, not Jewish people, And
it doesn't matter, if someone's Jewish or if someone's Christian or even if someone's Islam. They do recognize the Elohim of Abraham. I would argue that they have a misinterpreted understanding according to whatever books they're reading of what his likes and dislikes are.
Right.
But according to the scriptures, he has a specific set of likes and dislikes. But in the stuff that we went over last semester, I feel that the biggest things to go over, to kind of highlight right now before we get into the Sabbath stuff is... the biggest thing to go over is essentially how we should be identifying as believers. I identify, if you want to identify as a Christian, I don't have a problem with that. As long as you mean a Christian as someone who follows Christ, the Christ from the scriptures that we have. And if you're following Christ, that is Messiah, as Mashiach in the Hebrew tongue, if you're following him, the only begotten Son, that's okay. Identify as a Christian. But when people today say they identify as a Christian, what they really are saying is that they identify as whatever denomination they're in. And so they say, well, I identify as a Christian, or some people even say, well, I'm a Methodist, or I'm a Baptist, or I'm a I don't know, Presbyterian or whatever, a Catholic or whatever it is.
Catholicism.
And frankly, as we covered, remember in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, I'm of Apollo, or I'm of Paul, or I am of Peter, or I am of Messiah. Has the body of Messiah been divided? And so that was the big thing. This is 1 Corinthians 1 that we went over. The big thing is that we shouldn't be divided. However, Satan definitely has caused divisions among us.
Definitely.
And
I'd like to use the branch example that you mentioned. That there's this one stem. The scriptures is one stem. It's one tree, but Satan has kind of come in and cut different roots, and now there's different sections, different denominations, each having their own little branch, and there's just one stem, man, one kind of scripture, yet there are all these branches that kind of pull off, but none of them kind of claim that they're a Yehudi or an Israelite.
Right. And those that do deny Messiah.
Pretty much.
It's well, there's a problem with a lot of stuff, but but all of us, I mean, I guess you could say all of us every single one of us in the world, even those who aren't believers right now, we're all being called, and we all will be presented. I do believe before Messiah returns is that we will all be given the opportunity to come out of her. Her meaning Babylon the Great, the great confusion, the great religious confusion. And I do believe that we will be given the opportunity to come out, whether or not they hear the call that is that is on the person, their choice, choose life or choose death. But okay, so let's get into the Sabbath. So I think I covered, and I'm not going to do it now, but I might consider doing it a full episode for you. It might be good for other people, even though I do have a Mark of the Beast teaching in a 4-part series. I would like to redo it at some point in time and consolidate it into one.
Yeah.
But did I talk to you? I feel in one of the episodes, the very end, I did kind of rush through it.
Yeah, the beast or the
mark of the beast.
The mark of the beast. Yeah.
Yeah, the mark of the beast, to just put the answer on it, and I do have a 4-part series on it, is that the mark of the beast, essentially what the beast is the government, the kingdom of Satan that is in power of the world. And the head of the beast represents the world power, but the beast itself is a conglomerate of powers. And in the mark of the beast, what it is a seal, and it is a remembrance, a mark, a zakar, if you will, in Hebrew. And what it does is the mark of the beast specifically targets the first and greatest commandment, to love Elohim with all your Yahuwah Elohim with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Sorry. The heart, soul, mind, and strength, that's found in Mark 12:30. And then it also attacks the first 4 of the 10 commandments. So like the heart has to do with the first commandment, the soul with the second commandment, the mind with the third commandment, and your strength with the 4th commandment. And I have a whole teaching on that. But essentially the mark of the beast struck, you could say, 1704 years ago, in the year 321 AD, we definitely went over this, the sabbatical edict of Constantine, to where he changed the Sabbath day from the 7th day to the first day. And he changed it from 137 languages around the world today. It has Sabado or Sabbath as Saturday, and he changed the day of worship from Saturday to Sunday. Yeah. And so most Christians today, I would say, 99% of Christians today, most Christians today, they keep the edict of Constantine, a man-made edict.
Yeah.
And so when you do historical accounts, we're going to get into the scripture historical accounts here before the end of this show, but when you of this episode, but when you get into actual like historical accounts, it is an uncontested point that 1st and 2nd century Christians, those who identify as followers of Christ, kept the Sabbath. And it didn't hit mainstream rejecting the Sabbath until the sabbatical edict of Constantine. Even though it was happening beforehand, it was mainstreamed at that point in time. Okay, so the Sabbath, let's look at that regulation. There's one in Deuteronomy 5, and there's another one in Exodus 20. We'll do the one in Exodus, I think starting in verse 8, Exodus 20, verse 8, and it says, remember the Sabbath day. We're going to look at the regulation. This is the law regulation. To set it apart. 6 days
Sorry, are you...
thank you very much. I just caught it. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart, or to keep it holy, as King James would say here. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath of Yahuwah, your Elohim, the Lord your God. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart and made it holy. So that's the regulation. It all fits right in there perfectly there. So in the regulation, let's look at it. So what's interesting about the Sabbath is this word, Zechariah. You've heard that name, Zechariah?
Yeah, Zechariah.
Zechariah or Zakaryahu. Zakar is the word that is found here for remember. That is this word right here, Zakar. 21:42. And so what's funny about the 4th commandment, he's like, I know you're going to forget it. He's like, I know you're going to forget it. And there's plenty of evidence in the Old Testament that they forgot it or turned their back on it. And he's like, I know you're going to forget it. It's going to be a repeating pattern. It's going to be a repeating pattern. So it's funny that the fourth commandment is to remember the fourth commandment. You know, all the other commandments are like, don't do this, don't do that, you know, do this or do that, you know. Yeah. And the fourth commandment is to remember the fourth commandment. You know, that's the beginning of it. Yeah. You know, it's kind of interesting on that. Yeah. And who set it apart. To keep it holy. So holy in the Hebraic understanding, Kodesh, holy is if you have 100 pennies and one is let's say 7 pennies. If you have 7 pennies and 1 penny is a wheat penny, I don't know, or I don't know, whatever, a buffalo penny. I don't know. You know, if 1 penny is a rare penny, you know, then that penny you set to the side, and that penny is special. That penny is set apart from the others because it's different than the others. So the Sabbath day is not supposed to be a regular day, just like any other day of the week. It is a day that is separate from all of the other days. It's holy. That's what holy means. Yeah. That's why he says that his people are holy. We're holy people. It means that we're set apart from the world, because the world does whatever they want. Whatever ideology and theology you can pick and choose. That's literally the gist of what the beast is. The beast is amalgamation. It's Frankenstein's stitched together monster. Yeah. You can pick and choose and reanimate any dead body in pieces and parts and stitch them all together and make the Roman conglomerate of amalgamation in whatever likeness that you want. That is according to your desire, not according to Elohim's desire. Elohim tells us specific things. Do this, don't do that. This is okay. This is incorrect. You uproot this and you plant that. He tells you specific things to do. But we are set apart people. Sorry, I lost my track. I'm back on track now. We, as we're supposed to be set apart people, we are different than the rest of the world because we're supposed to be following after Elohim. We're supposed to be imitating Messiah, imitating the apostles, imitating Elohim ultimately. And there's plenty of scriptures on that. 1 Corinthians 11:1, Galatians, I think 5:1, that we're supposed to be imitating these patterns. And so we are to keep it set apart. We're set apart people, and this Sabbath this day is a set apart day. It's a day unique to itself in the weekly cycle. Just like the holidays throughout the year, when we do the Moedim of the annual Moedim, they are also set apart days. They're different than the rest of the days. Okay, so in the regulations, 6 days you labor. Now, a lot of people in this walk, especially in this walk, what I mean is people that they're more educated on the scriptures. And they have an understanding of what the scriptures is teaching. They have not rejected the Sabbath. They don't think that the law has been done away with. And they're trying to figure out more accurately what the scriptures are teaching us outside of the institutionalization and possibly satanic corruption of man and unclean spirit. So outside of that, what I find is a lot of people in this walk, they always remember the Sabbath day. Those that do remember the Sabbath day, they remember the Sabbath day, and they don't work on the Sabbath day. Yeah. But what I see right here, what do you notice here? I'm highlighting it.
6 days you labor.
Oh, wait, what about it? Say that again.
6 days you labor.
Oh man, you got to work. So the Sabbath day, commandment is that you got to work, bro. Like, I'm sorry, man.
You got to work. Hey.
Yeah.
You can't, doesn't mean you can't be lazy 6 days out the week. You still got to work.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I know that, we all have our calling and we all have our mission, and on all of our jobs are different. Yeah, of course. Some people's jobs are more manual. Some people's jobs are more cerebral, I guess, right?
White collar jobs.
Whatever it is, you need to make sure that I used to drive truck. If it ain't turning, it ain't earning. Right?
Earning,
If your wheels aren't turning, you're not earning money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what I find sadly is a lot of people in this Torah walk and I'm not trying to disparage them, not a lot. Okay, let me rephrase that. I do see certain people, and definitely not going to name names, that don't have a very good work ethic.
Yeah.
And I see that they are, they hyper studying, and really putting on a good show. But as far as the Sabbath regulation goes, if you aren't working for 6 days, you're technically not keeping the Sabbath. Yeah, it's a really important. Yeah. It's a really important thing.
Yeah.
And so some people, they want to work so much that they want to work 8 days a week.
Yeah.
And some people are so lazy that they want to Sabbath 7 days a week, or they want to Sabbath. They want to Sabbath 8 days a week. Right.
Yeah.
And so we need to have a balance between that. So we're breaking it down line by line here.
Yeah.
So in Exodus chapter 20 verse 9 is that we need to work.
We need to.
Yeah. And so if your job is stay at home mother, that's your job.
That's your job.
Sometimes you're taking care of children, just like the Levitical priesthood. You got to work on the Sabbath to take care of your children, just like the Levites had to do animal sacrifices. Yeah. But on that, I'll. It's a great thing that I brought that up.
Question.
Yeah,
I have a question. Yeah.
After this, 1 second.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What I would just say is that just like your heart keeps pumping, and just like you keep breathing, and whatever food is in your stomach, and if you do eat any food that is prepared, your stomach is digesting, that's working. The body, as in the larger body, a nation, there are certain facilities that I do believe that do need to stay open. So like, as in the case in point is like when the Levites, and Messiah even talks about it, is that the Levites work 7 days a week, but they take it in shifts.
Yeah.
This priesthood has it for 2 weeks, and that priesthood has it for 2 weeks, and 24 priesthoods, in one yearly cycle, and they cycle around. So, there's a rotational shift. I believe that people like fire department, police officers, emergency personnel, ER hospital workers, you get the idea. There are certain jobs that I believe that need to remain active during the military, during the Sabbath. And so to hyper analyze the Sabbath, well, you don't do any work. Well, what about the Levites? And I do believe that there are some aspects, and there might be like certain emergency situations, like your ox falls in a ditch. There's an explanation for that. If there's an emergency, like let's say that, let's say someone gets a mortal wound, but it's not immediately mortal, but if they don't take care of it, it is. What are they going to do? Well, the Sabbath just started like 2 hours ago, so I got 22 more hours, and then I can go to the hospital, right? You got to go take care of that now. Life takes precedence over that. So and I'm going to turn it over to you in just a moment. So basically, we need to work 6 days a week. Some jobs I do believe need to stay open for emergency situations, and then we also rest 1 day a week, and we don't work, we don't buy, we don't sell. Okay, go ahead.
It's just like the labor aspect. I was wondering, like, when you say labor, and like you said, some jobs are different, right? Some jobs you only work 4 days a week. What do you do in between those times between where you work and the Sabbath? Let's say there's like 2 days before Sabbath, and you're not working those 2 days. What do you do in that time? Do you just mean like labor, like work, or can it be like, like go to the gym or go on a walk or whatever? Yeah.
So that's a good point. Some jobs are 5 days a week, and that's just your job. You're not going to tell your boss, well, I need to work one more day.
Yeah.
I get it. And so let's say you have a Monday through Friday job, and 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to have Sunday off. So Sunday is a day that you can go get all your errands done, go get your house cleaning done, or whatever it is.
Right.
And I guess, I would say that the Sabbath specifically is a day that is set apart from the others. It's a day that you don't go do your house cleaning. It's not a day that you are doing your dishes or doing your laundry. And it's not a day that that you are going to the movie theater during that day, or going out to a restaurant, Saturday, you go have brunch on Saturday.
Right.
But the Sabbath specifically is a day that is set apart from the others. So if you have a 5-day-a-week job, your Sunday, a lot of people, they get it to go do their errands, or they're kind of getting caught up on other odd jobs that they're doing, or they're going out and spending a time with family and are buying and selling at that point in time. They go shopping, they go to the movies, and they go do something like that. That's okay.
Right.
But it is important that we do our weekly work. And the scriptures say, I'm trying to remember where it is. If you don't work, you don't eat. I think Paul says that. I have to find that. Yeah. If you don't work, you don't eat. So we need to make sure that we're pulling our weight, and providing. I pumped the button there. In providing for our family. Okay.
Keep yourself busy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So then he says here in verse 10, to kind of put some more clarification on it, is that the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahuwah your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. Meaning, well, I'm keeping the Sabbath, so I can go to a restaurant because I'm not working. Well, if you're getting served, that's a female servant. Yeah. Right. Or if it's a male waiter, that's your female, that's your waiter, servant. Male or female waiter, or a cashier, or whatever it is, your cattle. So not even like your animals. Could you say that that's your car? I don't know. That's an interesting one there. Yeah. Nor your stranger who is within your gates. Basically, what he's saying is that you're not supposed to be. So, like, if and this is where things get a little bit. It gets a little bit. I guess you could say Chick-fil-A kind of does this, but they do it on the wrong day, right? So Chick-fil-A, they don't what? They're not open when?
Well, Sundays,
right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're not open at all. Yeah. Why? At least they're most places don't even honor the Sunday. Yeah. Chick-fil-A is like, we're gonna honor the Sunday. We're gonna Sabbath on Sunday.
Yeah. I
may disagree with their day choice selection, but they're actually doing the right thing. The owners of Chick-fil-A is aside from the day, they own the company, and they're like, my whole company is shut down for that day. We're not working. We're not buying. We're not selling. We're not making. We're not whatever. And not their servants, not our cattle, not our strangers within our gates, not our son, not our daughter. No one. We're shutting it down on that day.
Yeah.
And so Chick-fil-A, aside from the day, has that correct as far as business owners. All businesses should be doing that. It should be a complete nothing on that day. For that. And then the key thing here is in 11, most people don't pick this up. For in 6 days, Yahuwah, that's his name, made, that's his title, the heavens and the earth and all that is, the earth, the sea and all that is in them. That is his jurisdiction. Why can't I highlight that? Here we
That's
go.
Weird. It's good.
That is his jurisdiction. So like you could say like Donald Trump, a name, we see that in all through the world.
Yeah.
President, that's his title, United States of America. It's a name, a title, and a jurisdiction. So in the Sabbath, you have his name, you have his title, the maker, the creator, and his jurisdiction that is in there. So the Sabbath has his seal. I think I even have it. Yeah, right there. The Sabbath has his seal.
Yeah.
There's his name. This is his jurisdiction. It should also say the sea, heaven, earth, and sea, right?
That's cool.
And creator, that's his title. That's his seal that is there. So the mark of the beast first targeted the Sabbath, and then after the Sabbath, they basically started taking his name in vain, bringing idolatry in, and then essentially started worshiping false gods during that period in time. So that's that. We're kind of out of time, but I do want to share some points here that I have. Anyone can take a screenshot of this that is looking at that here. This is just different different things that I have here. So evidence the apostles, saints kept the Hebrew appointed times and law. Let's look at some of these while we have a little bit of time left here. So, and this will actually segue into the holiday stuff next week. Shavuot, festival of Shavuot, that would be Pentecost. So they're keeping Pentecost. But let me find some Sabbath related things. I don't have it listed just by the Sabbath. No, it's not that one. I think 13:14. So Acts chapter 13:14 is one of them. Passing through from Perge, they came to Antioch in Pisidia and went into the congregation on the Sabbath day and sat down. So here they are. And after the reading of the Torah and the prophets, so they are participating in the reading of the law and the prophets of the scriptures. They're reading the scriptures, the prophets, the law. We would now include the gospel accounts in that. And then they start speaking. And then here, that's verse 14, verse 27, it says, for those dwelling in Jerusalem and their rulers, nor even the voices of the prophets which are read every Sabbath. So here he's saying that those dwelling in Jerusalem are that they are read every Sabbath. And then in verse 42 through 44, this is the power one here in the chapter. And when the Yahudim went out of the congregation, the assembly, right, the church, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it even says, it says synagogue in King James. Anyways, the nations begged to have, the nations, the Goyim, right, the nations, begged to have these words spoken of them on the next Sunday? No, right, on the next Sabbath, right? Because first century Christians kept the Sabbath. Yeah. Right, and they're all met on the Sabbath. And Rome tried to control the people by switching the day and separating people from the other theology and bring them into their own theology. And that's why they brought the Sunday. It's a sin of Jeroboam tactic, but it's a whole separate point. But here they are in Acts chapter 13:42, Apostle Paul, they all say, hey, come next week. Okay, during our assembly. Next week, when the meeting of the congregation had broken up of the Yahudim, they were urging them to continue in the grace of Elohim. And on the next Sabbath, almost all the city came together to hear the word of Elohim. Interesting. So they're keeping the Sabbath. Here's one in 15:21. In Acts chapter 15, the beginning portion, maybe in the future we'll go over this when we start doing our book study that we pick, but maybe we can go through Acts at some point in time. But in the beginning of Acts chapter 15, they're basically arguing that we're not saved by works of the law, but we are saved by grace, by faith, our salvation through our faith in Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach, through Jesus Christ in the common tongue today. Yahushua HaMashiach. That is where our salvation comes from, not for works of the law. That's what this whole argument up here is talking about. And he basically even says something, let me find here, where he says, I'm trying to find just this one part. I know where the one part is, but where he says, like, not even our forefathers could carry it. It's okay. I don't. I'm quickly reading through. Here we go. Here, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear. So he's saying, like, if salvation comes from keeping the law perfectly, like, not even our fathers nor us were able to do it perfectly. None of us. None of us. Yeah, is what they're saying. So what he says here, and a lot of people misinterpret this. What he's saying is, let's not trouble them. Let me find too much. Here, right here. Therefore, I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Elohim. Right. But that we write to them, abstain from the defilements of idols and from whoring and from what is strangled and from blood. For from ancient generations, Moshe, that's Moses, has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregations every Sabbath. Interesting. So what he's saying, quick question, a random guy off the street, a general person, not not some farm boy or something like that. A general guy off the street, can he bench press 300 pounds?
No,
right? It's something you got to build up into, right?
Yeah.
And it takes a while. So, is a regular Gentile, some of the nations that's just off the street, are they able to keep every aspect of the fine parts of the law?
No, definitely.
No, it's too heavy for them.
It's too heavy.
It's too heavy. They can't bear that load.
Yeah.
You have to work your way into it.
Yeah.
So what they're saying here in Acts chapter 15, he's basically saying is that we are to write to them. He gives them 4 points to work on. Abstain from the defilements of idols, and from whoring, and from what is strangled, and from blood. So those that are in this region, they had the elders that got together were like, he thinking like, what is like a major thing in the area that needs to get worked on? Oh, have them work on these 4 points. And if we can get them to work on these 4 points, don't do these 4 things, and then because they're going to be coming into the congregation every Sabbath, they're going to hear what Moses has to say because they read from the law, as we saw in Acts chapter 13. Right. Where was that at in 13?
13 chapter
27 was it, or was it 14?
Verse 20.
No, right.
Right, 14, I think.
Yeah, right here.
Or
after the reading of the Torah and the prophets. The Torah is the words of Moses. So coming into the congregation on the Sabbath, they're going to hear the words of Moses, and Moses heard the word of Elohim, and he transpired it to us, right?
Yeah,
that's what it says here in Exodus chapter 20, right here at the end of the 10 Commandments, right? All the people saw this, and they're like, "You speak with us, Moses, lest we hear, but not let Elohim speak with us, let we die." So they put Moses as this mediator, and he said, they put Moses as the mediator. So Moses, that's why everything later on, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, Yahuwah, the Lord said to Moses, right? And then that's why all the previous chapters, it'll say stuff like, thus said the Lord, thus saith Yahuwah. I can't find anything right now, but it's okay. So back to the point, is that in Acts chapter 13 that we covered, the reading of the Torah and the prophets, basically they're reading the Bible and they're hearing Moses' words. So they're hearing Moses' words every week. As you see here, a regular weekly Sabbath day assembly, and they're reading the words of Moses and the prophets. You could say today that we're supposed to read the gospel accounts. I definitely would say that, the Brit Chadashah. And so back to Acts chapter 15, they're saying, don't trouble them with all the weight. Have them work on these 4 points, because from ancient generations, Moses in every city has those proclaiming him being read in the congregations every Sabbath. So they're directing people into the Sabbath day assembly, and they're saying that they're going to hear the words of Moses. So essentially every week they're going to get their weight up, right? They're going to get an extra plate on there, they're going to get a little bit spiritually stronger, and eventually, go bench 300 pounds and beyond. Yeah. And so essentially what they're saying is work on these 4 points, because those of the nation have spiritual atrophy. And so we need them to get spiritually stronger. And if you put 300 pounds on the bench and say you got to lift 300 pounds on the bench and won't come down and wait, they'll never get and they'll get frustrated and turn around and walk away. So have them work on, just lifting the bar. Yeah. Just lift the bar. If you can't lift the whole with plates on it, just lift the bar.
Lift the bar,
just lift the bar, and then eventually you're going to stack more and more weight on it as you get spiritually stronger. But the point is that here in the book of Acts, this is decades after Messiah died, resurrected, and ascended into heaven. Remember, Acts chapter 1, verse 9, he goes up into heaven.
Yeah.
So here we are 15 chapters later, which is maybe a decade or more afterwards, maybe 17 years, if you're Galatians chapter 1, whenever this, time transpired, is that this is, maybe 10 years or more after the ascension into heaven, and they're still directing the nations into the congregations on the Sabbath. Yeah. So let's see if there's any more. That's Acts 15. Okay, it's not that one. Maybe. So I don't have this list differentiated by just the Sabbath. So I'm going off of maybe 16. 13? Let's see if that's here. Oh, 13. Yeah, that's why I can't find it. Yeah, so on the Sabbath day, we went outside the city by a river and where there used to be prayer, and having sat down, we were speaking to the women who met there. So it's totally okay. So on the Sabbath, there's prayer. They're like, hey, we're going to do prayer, which is a sacrifice. And they're like, let's pick somewhere in nature that's beautiful. Well, right here by the river, man, like the water sounds really nice, and the nature is beautiful. So let's meet here every week on the Sabbath, at such and such time, and we'll have a group prayer. So here on the Sabbath day, we see that they are meeting on the Sabbath day, and they are assembling for prayer on that day. In Acts chapter 17, verse 2, according to his practice, Shaul went unto them, and for 3 Sabbaths. So it's interesting, according to his practice.
Yeah.
So it means that's his practice. For 3 Sabbaths was reasoning with them from the scriptures. Now I'm going to stop there because we're over time. But according to his practice, I want to find something really quick. A memory was triggered. And I don't know where it is in Timothy. I'm going to try to find it really quick. How would I find that? I'm going to kind of, as I'm looking here, would it be traditions? I think of the word traditions. So let's search for the word, traditions. And let's look in 2 Timothy. Okay, it's not there. Let's look in New. Yeah, here it is. 2 Timothy. It is there. Okay. So this is Thessalonians. Okay. So I was close. Timothy, Thessalonians, not really.
I got the T in it.
I got the second part right.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah. So then, brothers, stand fast and hold the traditions which you were taught, whether by word or by our letter. Interesting that he says that. So then, brothers, stand fast and hold the traditions which you were taught. Now, what did we just see in Acts chapter 17:2? Right? In Acts 17:2, it says, according to his practice, Shaul went into them, and for 3 Sabbaths was reasoning with them from the scriptures. So according to his practice, according to his tradition, what does he say here in 1 Corinthians 11:1? Become imitators of me, as I
am also
of Messiah.
Yeah.
Wow, another thing popped in my head. Where is this at? I feel like it's in Luke 4. But maybe it's Matthew. No, maybe it's Matthew. Hang on.
Matthew.
If I can't find it really quick, this one, I know I can find it on my phone because I have it highlighted.
Yeah.
But according to his practice, it's okay. I don't want to take too much time to find it. I don't. It might take too long. Basically, somewhere in Matthew or in the gospel accounts, it says that, I thought it was in Luke, but it says that it was according to Messiah's practice that he went into the Sabbath, the synagogue or the assembly on the Sabbath, and then began to read from the scriptures according to Messiah's practice. And it says that we're supposed to imitate him. There's one more also, I think it's Ephesians 5. Yeah. Become them imitators of Elohim as beloved children. So we're supposed to imitate Elohim. So the Sabbath is here, Galatians 2:2, and in the 7th day, Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the Sabbath day from all his work which he had made. So he rested on the 7th day, and then here we have in Ephesians chapter 5 that we are supposed to become imitators of Elohim. So keeping the Sabbath is imitating Elohim. Yeah, it's the pattern that he set for us. It is a day of worship that I thought I did cover pretty extensively. In Leviticus 23:3, this was in the previous verse, the previous video, excuse me. It says that 6 days work is done. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a holy gathering. So we're supposed to gather on this day. Yeah. It is a day of worship that we don't do any work, and it is a Sabbath to all to Yahuwah in all your dwellings. So I think that's the regulation there. Let me just see something here real quick here. No, there was something that popped in my head, but maybe it wasn't here. To where he talks about the Sabbath, but it might not be Exodus 19. I would have to find it somewhere else. Sorry, I didn't have this in my notes.
No, you're good. You're good.
It basically talks about the Sabbath is that that he put the Sabbath before us to test us if we love him or not. And it says that verbatim in Exodus. If someone is watching this video, please put it in the comments. Help me find that. I know it's in here somewhere. I thought it was chapter 19, but it's Numbers 19. Let me try one more spot.
Yeah.
Numbers 19. No, it's not it there. Yeah, that's not it. Okay. Anyways, I'll try to pin it in the comments actually if no one can mentions in there. Anyways, so one last point, and then we'll move here. This is Acts, back in the book of Acts here. Chapter 24, verse 14. Paul is on trial. And he says, and he's on trial before King Agrippa, and he's being, accused here. Tertullius is accusing him. And he says here, in this I confess to you that according to the way which they call a sect, so I worship the Elohim of my fathers, believing believing all that has been written in the Torah and in the prophets. So here's Apostle Paul saying that he believes all that is written in the Torah and the prophets. In the Sabbath, it says that it is an everlasting law, and it's the sign of his people, and that he puts it there to test us of whether or not we love him or not. He put this there, which is why the seventh command or the fourth commandment is to remember the fourth commandment. Okay, so that's that. Let's go ahead and, if you want to think of something as what is a key thing that maybe we went over here this week that sticks out to you. It's our pearl, as we know that the viewers are not swine. So what is the pearl that we can cast before our viewers? But remember, don't cast pearls before swine. What is the pearl of the episode that sticks out to you, Nathan?
For me, it's imitate Yahuwah Elohim by honoring the Sabbath, by not only gathering, but not working, but also gathering on the right day. By the way, seventh day, not Sunday, but Saturday. And I think imitation is definitely a key aspect that I kind of got out of this. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Okay, so next week we're going to go over the holy days, the holidays, the Moedim. So remember, guard your heart, guard your soul, guard Torah, or pay the toll.